All right. It seems as though Polake's um audio is disrupted. So we'll just give it a little bit of time for her to fix that. Sorry about that, everyone. But you're all welcome. You're all welcome to the session today. It's going to be an amazing one, and it's going to be very inspiring. We have a lineup of panelists from different sectors, both from the private to the development space and also from the research world as well. So we're really looking forward to having you all engaged today. Folake is going to be joining us soon. But briefly, I'll just talk about sustainable solutions for green growth. Sustainable Solutions for Green Growth is the organizer of this event, and we are a nonprofit, youth-driven, and also focused on both women and girls as well. And we focus on climate and environmental sustainability initiatives here in Africa. And we solely work with marginalized communities. We help to bring supports and resources down to the local grassroots communities that is the most affected by the climate crisis. We're partnering with Global Shapers Community Ilorin Hub and as well Green Hub Africa Foundation on this event. Shortly, Big Z will be joining us, and we can't hear her right now, but if she's able to unmute herself, we could hear her. Just give us a moment to fix our audio. Big Z, are you in now? Sorry for the interruption, guys. There will be Big Z will be, Folake will be joining us very soon. Um, and it seems as though our phone is hanging. So we will proceed. We'll proceed with the events. So briefly, I'd like to introduce uh, all everybody in the panel, including Big Zil, and we have Wale Amond and Oluwayemisi Fagboro, and as well Uye Membe, who is joining us from different locations across the country. So just give me a moment to pull up their profiles so that I could read that out to you guys. But before I do that, right, I would like to just talk a little bit about this event, this panel. This panel, as you can see, is going to focus on the theme planet versus plastics, because we're organizing this event in commemoration of the Earth Day 2024. And we really just want to shine a light on, plastics pollution. How could we address plastic pollution creatively through entrepreneurship, policy, and research and development work? We understand that plastics have contributed so much, you know, impacts negatively to our environment, and we want to make sure that we're taking, advocating and taking steps, both individually and also collectively, to address the impacts of plastic pollution in our community. Just give me a moment to pull up their profiles, and we get started. And we will get started with the presentation. All right. Okay. So I have the profile here with me now. So I'm going to start to introduce Wale Hammond. Wale Hammond is a sustainability practitioner. Wale is a sustainability and development strategist with experience in designing and executing green projects and integrating sustainability practices into business and nonprofit operations. He also uses photography to raise awareness of social and environmental issues in his community and to promote sustainable development. It's quite interesting to see that Wale does photography as a form of arts, and he's using that skill that he has to promote sustainable development in our community. Thank you, Wale. Can Wale just say something just to the audience?
No, Aziz, thank you for the introduction. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all here, and I look forward to have such fruitful discussions.
Thank you, Wally. So good to hear from you. Always good to hear from you, Wally. So the next person I'm introducing here right now is Oluwayemisi Fagbaro. She's a PhD candidate. She's also a climate reality leader. And Oluwayemisi is a dedicated educator, researcher, and content writer. She has a strong focus on social impact. She also recently earned a master's degree, completing a series of cutting-edge research projects aimed at addressing local needs through industrial microbiology. Oluwayemisi is deeply committed to Sustainable Development Goals 2, 3, and 13. And as an educator, she has successfully assisted in implementing programs such as the Safe Space for Her, as well the Alaye Civic Educator Program, and also gender-based violence webinar, amongst others. She's a climate reality leader trained in Accra, Ghana, under the auspices of the climate reality training led by Al Gore, who is the former vice president of the United States. And also as a trained leader, she has started a doctoral degree with the goal of addressing the climate crisis through microbiology, specifically focusing on the production of bioplastics in the food packaging industry. She aims to address critical needs within our community and across the country. Such an impressive profile there, Oluwayemisi. I love that she brings, research expertise into the space. There's a few people, young people who work, around research in the environmental space, and it's so good to see that she is one of those young people who is actually doing research work in the environmental and climate change space. Thank you, Yemisi. Could you say something to the audience before we introduce the next speaker?
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so privileged to be here, and I hope we have an insightful session together. Thank you.
Thank you, Yemisi. Thank you for introducing yourself. Let me just spotlight you so everybody can see you, and know who has just spoken. All right, good. All right, so the last person I'm introducing as a panelist before I introduce the moderator, hopefully she joins us soon, is Member Uye. She's an upcycler and a creative founder of MEMS Culture. So Member is a passionate and seasoned youth leader. She's also a visionary and sustainable fashion entrepreneur who is an accomplished upcycler. She's dedicated to climate activism and she is an adept community organizer. Over the course of 6 good years, she has demonstrated a strong commitment to training and empowering 2,000 plus women and children throughout Africa in the transformative art of upcycling waste. As a leader, She's a she steers a team rather of a dynamic young change makers, fervently championing the cause of sustainability. Leveraging her influence as a resourceful content creator, she actively advocates for sustainable future. Thank you, member. Could you just briefly say something to the audience before we get started? Member?
Okay. Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here and I look forward to having insightful conversations with everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you so much. Okay, I can see that Folake is back. Let me just add to the spotlight. So Folake, I guess at this point, I'd like for you to introduce yourself and just take over the event.
Oh, okay. I was thinking you would do the honor of introducing me, but that's okay. So I'll I'd like to apologize for the technical issue, just logging out. I don't know, stuff just came up. So hi everyone. If you can hear me, please let me know. My name is Olufolake Zion. I love being addressed as Olufolake. So a final year student at Obafemi Awolowo University, Africa's most beautiful campus in the whole of Africa. I'm studying biochemistry, and then I'm very passionate about sustainable living. I'm interested in SDG 8, that's decent work and economic growth, and then SDG 12, responsible production and consumption. I work at Sustainable Solutions for Green Growth, who is the organizer of this amazing event as a project associate, and so happy to be here. I will be, moderating this session, and I would like to dive right in. So I want to throw a question to my panelists. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I would like to throw a question to all my panelists, to Wale, to Member, to OLYMC. What do you guys think is the significance of this year's theme, right? Planet versus plastics. What do you think is the significance? Why do you think that theme is important for this year? So anyone who wants to go first, can just dive right in. So you have 1 minute each to answer that question. Thank you. Wale, do you want to go first?
Sure, yes. Thank you so much, Olufolake. Yes, I think when I saw this earlier in the year, I was like, this is really timely because I feel many of us feel a disconnect when we celebrate or commemorate Earth Day because the themes are usually something far away. But now that it's plastics versus planet, I think it sort of brings it into perspective that there is a challenge that must be addressed, which is plastic pollution. And we'll see from various research and data insights that we see that, take for instance, the ocean, I think by 2050, if the current rates of plastic pollutions continue, we would have not only fishes having microplastics within their system, but a vast portion of will have more. I think the it's filmed as will have more fish, more plastics in the ocean than fish, which is something that really means that we have to take action. So, plastic versus planet is a call to action for us to rethink our approach towards how we use plastics, the role they play in community, and how we can think of a more sustainable way of our consumption, our packaging, and what we want for the earth. So it's a call to action, and I think we'll share ideas. We'll talk about how each and every one of us can contribute to this cause. Thank you, Lufolaka.
Thanks for sharing that. The theme is a call to action, really profound. What about you, Member? What's your disposition towards it?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
I can.
I can.
Okay. For me, when I saw this thing, planet versus plastic, I just said to myself, oh wow, it's about time. Because the team, like Wale said, is a call to action, because plastics are like the most used items. Like when you go to buy stuff, just everywhere, they are like disposal. The way people dispose of them is not even good and all of that. So when I saw the team, I was like, oh nice, that it's high time, like we begin to talk about this thing more. And even businesses, we as individuals begins to take like actions on how we use them, how our packaging system and everything, just everything, like we need to take more action because it's causing more harm than good. Like there are some communities that you go to, and there are some communities in Abuja here that I go to, I'm like, is this place in Abuja? I'm like, are you people not seeing what you're doing to your environment? And also, I think it's a call to action for everyone, for every individual, for every business out there. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. Oluwayemisi, how about you?
Can you see me? Okay, can you see me now?
Yes, I can. I can see your gorgeous face.
Okay, thank you. For me, when I saw plastic and planet, it occurred to me that finally we're talking about what people can relate to. And since the targets are entrepreneurs and artists, social media has helped condition our mind when it comes to visibility of your product. So people want to use cheap products that are beautiful, that are acceptable, that will be cost effective. And when you think of those things, plastic comes to mind. And it's everywhere. Plastics, they are ubiquitous, they are everywhere. You can't even walk 2 steps without seeing something plastic. You can't check online without seeing something plastic. So it's everywhere. And now we are now relating it to planet. It looks like, hey, it's cheap, it's cost effective, it's beautiful, it's good for packaging. But are you considering the effect on our planet? It's no longer saying about me. Okay, for instance, I'm an entrepreneur and I want to make sales and I'm packaging my product. It's no longer profit oriented, but now planet saving oriented. So I think that's a good thing for us. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think businesses are very, they have this tendency to lean towards products that are like more cost effective. And for real, I think sustainability is expensive, right? Because there are times when you wouldn't want to use all these products that are not eco-friendly. But then the sustainable products, they are not within reach. And then when you do get them, they are expensive. So what do you think one can do in that situation? I am an event organizer, so I host events every now and then. And every time I always want to source sustainable products to use them instead of plastics. So what method or what approach do you think I can take towards that, or anyone else here who is also, sourcing sustainable products? I would like Membe to like answer, because she's an entrepreneur who is, upcycling plastics and making them into gorgeous products. So I would like you to like answer there. And then Oluwayemisi, if you'd like to take a stab at it too, you're welcome to.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear the question. You were breaking a bit. Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Okay, maybe I should come in.
Yes, we can hear you.
She said, what are the alternatives to sustainable products instead of products that cause harm to us? She was talking about, as an event planner, as an entrepreneur, what do you think we can use? What are the alternatives you think you can use?
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, I also heard the part where she mentioned that sustainable products are expensive.
Yes.
I would say yes and no. I mean, that's on that part, that's why we need more people to go sustainable, so that we can have these products there out more for people to access. Because, okay, let me first address what are the sustainable alternatives we can use. Like in terms of your business, and when you look, because you need to have a packaging system, and most businesses, when they think plastic, they think leather bags. So if you're a business and you want to get a sustainable packaging for your products, you can get bags. Like, there are bags made from jute bag. They are beautiful, and you can reuse them, and they are very good for the environment. You can also get cloth bags as your packaging system. You can also get paper bags. So on my end, there are sometimes we had so many newspapers in my house at some point that I decided to make my packaging bags from them. And any exhibition I go to and I give a customer, they'll be like, wow, the packaging bag is made. Like, they love it and stuff like that. So you can decide to be creative. And you can also go for product, like in terms of your toothbrush, you can go for a bamboo toothbrush. We have bamboo products out there. They are beautiful and they are good for environment. So you can go for products like that are good for the environment, biodegradable products and all of that are good for the environment. Those are the kind of products you should patronize. Like, recently I connected with a guy who makes beautiful bamboo cups here in Abuja. They are lovely, and I'm like, this is amazing. But again, another problem with why people don't really see these things, or probably if I go to a supermarket, because of recently I wanted to buy a toothbrush, a bamboo toothbrush, and I had to go from store to store. Like, even the popular H Medics here in Abuja did not have. So I ended up buying toothbrush plus toothpaste to be able to get the bamboo toothbrush, because they were not selling like a single in the store. You have to buy a toothpaste to be able to get the toothbrush. Although I know a vendor here in Abuja that sells that, but I wanted it urgent. So I think if like businesses bring in more of that product, because I might go to a supermarket with the intention of buying a sustainable product, but when you get there, they are not there for you to shop. So you might end up still choosing the plastics. And also, I think it's a call for we entrepreneurs out there to, collaborate with supermarkets. If you're making a product that is sustainable for the environment, you should collaborate with supermarkets and get your products in there so that people can purchase them, like the paper bags. I cannot walk into a supermarket and then see paper bags, but like for my business packaging, I need bigger ones. You get the small ones and all of that. Yesterday at an event, I was also talking to my friend who make paper bags to like try to see how she can, get her paper bags into this big supermarket so that people can access, because if we are talking, go for the other alternatives and then we go to buy and we don't see them, we'll still go for what is available, so it's a call for we entrepreneurs who are in that space, to get our products in this store so that people can see, people can access them and buy them. Thank you. She's not back yet.
Hello, member.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you. Thank you for that contribution. You're done, right?
Yes, I'm done.
All right. It seems as though Olufolake's network is really terrible. So she's been dropping in and dropping out. So I will just take charge from here and continue the panel session. So a few more questions that we had thought about, asking our incredible panelists here. Sort of also like look into, plastics And I think one question I would like to ask Wale is, Wale, how do you see the intersectionality between climate change, biodiversity loss, and plastic pollution?
Thank you for your question, Aziz. I think these are really pressing issues that are somehow interconnected. So we are anthropogenic climate change and also biodiversity loss, which is scientists I think describe that we are in the one of the fastest extinction era due to activities here on Earth, and with plastic being a major problem, source of pollution, which has really negative impact uh, on not just human but nature in general. So, with climate change becoming a pressing issue that we are on the race to a warmer world, and with increasing consumption that makes us demand more resources like plastics, single-use plastics, continuing to use them, which is pressuring our natural resources to be able to create single-use plastics for us. And this ultimately affects biodiversity. For instance, a colleague that worked on a project looking at fishermen in southwestern Nigeria, and how increasingly whenever they go to fish, you would see them also fish out plastics from our rivers, from our streams. So this is a pressing issue because um, we are not only losing our biodiversity and our resources, we are somehow replacing them with plastics, which won't provide any benefit to us. Similarly, the way we manage plastics, especially in this part of the world, like member mentioned, the way we dispose of them at our landfills, some are burned, some just find their ways into farmlands and water bodies, which is really not healthy, which is really bad for us. So as we continue to burn these plastics, we somehow, it might look small, but we're also increasing carbon emissions that way, which is really affecting the problem that we are trying to adapt and manage. So these things are linked, and it is now important for us as people working in diverse spaces to begin to advocate for more sustainable practices that can firstly help us mitigate climate change. That means we need to reduce from our source, and it starts from our consumption. So if you go to the supermarket and you come with your own reusable bag, you are somehow, it looks small, but small actions lead to bigger results. So if you go with your reusable bag and decline a plastic bag, you're contributing to being part of the solution. You're being part of the solution. We are doing that. We are raising advocacy in our communities to push for recycling. Let's not continue to burn some of this waste in landfills, which is, I mean, even looking at the emissions is really a further part of the problem, because the closer problem is it has health implications for us, because people who live around these landfills inhale these things, which has negative health effects on people. So it's about our health, it's about the biodiversity, it's about nature, and it is time for us to see that they are linked, and it's time to take action. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wale, for that incredible response to the question about, the relationship between, climate change, biodiversity loss, and plastic pollution. Another question that I'd like to ask or pose to the audience, this time to Yemisi, is, Yemisi, what opportunities do you see for cross-sector collaboration to address plastic pollution? So, when I'm talking about cross-sector collaboration, I mean when from the energy to the education to health, and what opportunities or what possibilities do you see when all of these different sectors collaborate together to address plastic pollution, because in these different sectors, in one way or the other, plastic pollution is generated, or plastics are generated, plastic waste are generated. So how could they all collaborate collectively, speaking to what Wale had mentioned about holistic approach? How could they all collaborate to address plastic pollution?
Okay, thank you so much for that. I would like to say that everyone has a role to play, and there should be, okay, I love what is happening in STEM now, even outside the country. When it comes to research, it's now interdisciplinary, such that you are in engineering, you're an engineer, and you're doing a research across microbiology. So things like that will bring synergy. Just like during my training in Accra, Professor Chukwuemeka said something. He said, it's not, okay, some people will say it's climate first, development second. Another set of people will say it's development first, it's climate second. What I'm trying to say is it's not one first, then the other later. It has to be a synergy. So if we are talking about synergy, it means climate and development at the same time. It means an agriculturist should understand that the planet is at stake. An educator should understand that the planet is at stake. The engineer should understand that the planet is at stake. The artist should understand that the planet is at stake here. So if everybody can come together and have a synergy such that we are thinking climate and development at the same time. Now, let me put an instance. For instance, now, if an artist portrays pictures about on images, on packaging, and what we see is what we most likely do. If that is what you have consumed for a very long time, if you are going to produce something or package your product, you tend towards what you have been seeing. So if an artist can also be planet oriented, save the planet oriented, it's going to go a long way. So it's going across interdisciplinary research is one, coming together as one, taking climate and development together is also another one. So everybody should take ownership in their space. Don't say because I'm in education, I cannot bridge the gap. So the essence of whatever you're doing in the lab should be bridged to the community. If you're a researcher and the product ends up in a publishable paper, that's not the end. The end should be that it's well communicated to the community. That's why I said we should come together and bridge the gap. So it's climate and development together. So an educator who teaches about climate change should not just end in the classroom, should bring it to the community where it can be well effective. A researcher where that's okay, for instance, now I'm going to be doing a research on bioplastic for food packaging. If it ends in the laboratory and I write a paper, which most researchers do, and I write a paper and publish it, and it ends there, please, that's not going to communicate to the community where it's most needed. So we should have a mindset of save the planet. Everybody, regardless of what you do, everybody should have a mindset of save the planet. An entrepreneur that sells a product should think of ways of saving the planet. Like I said, an educator that teaches should look for ways of saving the planet. An engineer, yes, an engineer should also look for ways of saving the planet. It's a synergy. It has to do with everybody coming together and only owning up to it that we need to do it together. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yemisi, for that incredible response. We have Olufolake back. Honorable moderator is back now, so I would hand over to her so she can continue this session. But Olufolake, we had asked a few questions from Wale and Yemisi just before you joined, so you can pick up from there. Olufolake. Olufolake, are you with us? Okay. Seems like
can you hear me? It's
yes, we can
raining
hear you.
heavily here, like it's really like raining heavily here. So I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Please proceed.
Oh, oh, all right. I want to apologize for the interruption. I'm so sorry. The wind these days, whenever I rain, is so strong, and I don't know. I think these are one of the effects of climate change. But regardless, let's move ahead. I would like to throw an open-ended question to my guest. So, what opportunities do you see for cross-sector collaboration to address plastic pollution? So, what collaboration can different sectors, have to address for plastic pollution? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
I
Yes,
can
so
hear you.
yes, we can.
Yes.
yes, we can.
Thank you. All right. So, anyone want to go first?
I think Yemisi just answered that
I just
question, right?
answered the
So
question. I just answered the
member, would you like to go? Member, member, we can't hear you. Seems like your video is frozen. Okay. Let's Wale, would you like to go?
Well, yes, while we for member, I will give it a shot. Yeah, I think the way I see the sectors and different institutions collaborating would be private sector, government, academia, and everyone working together to sort of drive the change we need. Firstly, is from the regulatory space. You would agree with me that if the regulators see the need that plastic pollution is a problem and we have to address it, we will find that other sectors would have no choice than to take action. So if government enforces its pays principle, which is, for instance, in Nigeria, under the NESRIA laws, if government chooses to enforce this, that means people who use plastic, produce plastic, use plastics for their product would have to find a way to either take these plastics out of our landfills or give incentives for people to return their plastics or find alternatives to plastics themselves. So we need that regulatory aspect. So we've seen successes in other African countries, with Kenya and Rwanda, with policy as far back as a decade ago, trying to say we need to phase out plastics. And I'm quite aware that the Nigerian House of Representatives have pushed for the ban of plastic bags a few years back. But the thing is, we must see this through well-informed policies because we'll have to, phase this out. An outright ban may not work. So how do we phase this out? How do we give incentives for people who want to produce new forms of packaging and designs that will be more sustainable? To say producing paper bags, jute bags, like member mentioned. So it's government giving them opportunities to design, to do more research and development for this product. These are very important things. So when our regulation is ready to drive the change we need, we'll see private sector innovating and doing coming up with alternatives and new ways of doing things. And I think that will give us the incentives to get rid of plastics in our communities. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Wale. Falake, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
So thanks for throwing light on that. Really appreciate you. Okay. So I would have like ask another question related to like um the recycling facility open, right? Only for me to notice that earlier this month, there was like a whole lot in front of law. And then I was wondering if this facility opened, to enhance plastic recycling. I had want to recycle my plastic in there, right? is this facility open to, enhance plastic recycling? Why have they shut down already so quickly? I mean, did it even spend up to 6 months? So my question is, what challenges do you think great entrepreneurs face in running business within the green space, and how can we um address that? How can we better support these businesses in their initiative? Because I see a whole lot of new startups, new companies opening up, creating different recyclable materials. Earlier today, I was watching a reel where someone was creating plastics from leaves, right? I couldn't watch the reel. I couldn't like finish watching the reel because of the method. But they were like trying to show us how we can create plastics from leaves, right? And these are like new businesses, businesses springing up. You see, there's a recycling factory in Ibadan, Nigeria, where they turn sachets, right? Water sachets, where they turn it into they turn them into bags, right? So these are businesses actively trying to change the way things are within the environment. So what challenges do you think these businesses face that are like not peculiar to one type of business within the business, just like peculiar to all of them? And how do you think we as stakeholders who are like advocates, who are like even like just remotely interested in climate sustainability, how do you think we can support them and address these challenges? So anyone want to answer that?
Okay.
I hope my question is clear.
Let me say it again. Let me say your question again to you, if I'm right.
Okay.
You said businesses that are trying to recycle, that some of them are coming up, that what are their challenges, right? Is that what you said?
Yes. And how can we support them?
How can we support?
Both the government, regulators, we stakeholders that are, just interested in environmental sustainability. So how can we better support these people?
Okay. So I would like to start by saying that recycling is not the solution to climate change. So if recycling is not the solution to climate change, because these companies that are going to recycle, they will need high-level technology to degrade these materials, to cut them down into bits, to process the plastics. And when they do that, we are going back to greenhouse gas emissions.
Yes.
We are going back to GHG emissions. So it's like we are running away from something, we are coming into it again. So another one is that when this high technology is not available, the product end up being not so recyclable, such that when they are used, they still end up in our landfills. So the plastic you thought was recycled will still end up in the landfill. Okay, sometimes in 2019, I read up something that in Lagos State, there was a law that you don't, okay, plastics, there's no single use of plastics, such that when you use this plastic, you just dispose it. So they thought of recycling plastics. But do you know what the outcome was? It led to more consumption of plastics. That is the problem we're facing now, because people feel, after all, it will be recycled. So it's going to lead to more consumption of the plastic. It's going to lead to disposal issue, and we are back to square one. So recycling is not the solution. So if we have any company trying to recycle, trying to help recycle plastic so that we can get better products, fine. But we are still going back to square one, because they will need high technology to do that, and they will emit more GHG. They will emit more. And another thing is, I said they will also end up in landfills, because they are not so recycled, so they still end up in landfill. So what I feel can be the solution is, if we can leverage on other means. Let's say we have three methods now. We have the physical, we have the chemical, and we have the biological. So if you're talking about the physical and the chemical, those ones are the chemical, the use of chemicals, the use of heat, the use of those ones that will emit, is either hazardous gases, or will emit heat. So if you're going to the biological, I mean microbiology, that's I'm emphasizing on the biological. So if there is any means of helping to recycle plastics, I would suggest that I already said that recycling is not the solution to climate change. So I would suggest that we should use the biological ways of producing plastic. There are bioplastics that are degradable. And when they are on our landfills, what you get is just carbon dioxide. It's just carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is what we exhale. It doesn't have any effect on us. So if we can tilt towards the science part, if we can tilt towards the biological part of recycling plastic, producing plastics, it will save us so many harm. So I'm still going back to the first thing I said earlier, that has to come from a synergistic approach, such that I'm a microbiologist, you are an entrepreneur, you are a researcher, you're an educator. We come together to think about what to do to help the planet. When they said something about regulations, yes, there are regulations. Don't forget, I said something about Lagos in 2019, that there was a law that they should stop using single-use plastics and start using recyclable plastic. It led to more consumption of plastics. Like I said earlier, you can't go anywhere now and not see plastic because people feel they will recycle it. But if you think about how it's being recycled, greenhouse gas emission is being emitted again, and we are back to square one. That's just what I want to say.
That's really profound, right? In a bid to recycle these plastics, we use high level technology, GHG, and it's back to square one. What then? And I know that you already shared that if we can lean towards bioplastics, right? Right. So now let's bring that home, right? In our environment where we currently find ourselves, right? There are not enough of these things around. How can someone who wants to live sustainably, who is choosing to do without plastics, right? I mean, I don't think you can do without, but who is trying to like reduce their consumption, their usage of plastic? What approach do you think they can take towards that?
Okay. Let me buttress what I said earlier. I was talking about the production of plastic, and I said bioplastics.
Yeah.
You want to do packaging and you're thinking of what to do. The first thing you should think of is what's going to be the end product of this material I'm about to use. In the early days, before plastic came into existence, our forefathers, they used leaves to do their packaging. These are still innovations that can be brought to the public through social media and the likes. If it's well done, we can go back to using leaves. We can go back to using natural materials. Natural materials, I said that. If we use materials from plants, paper is from plants, they will degrade. If we use leaves, it will degrade. Though I understand the fact that when you use leaves, at times it opens up, your product is prone to spoilage, your product is prone to attack, is prone to being losing its quality. However, we can leverage on using Membe mentioned something about using jute bags, cloth bags. So not just things from plants. Let's tilt towards plants. Let's tilt towards animals. Animals, I'm talking about microorganisms. For production of plastics, we can use polylactic acid. That's from microorganisms, from lactic acid bacteria. We can use those ones to produce bioplastic. But for a layman, please tilt towards using leaves, plant materials, tilt towards using paper, tilt towards using animal materials, things like hide and skin of animals, things like that will help us to save the planet at large.
Thanks for that, Olaiemisi. I hope our participants have gained insight into, how you can live more with less plastics, right? How you can choose sustainability, choose eco-friendly products in your everyday living. If anyone have gained anything today, I would like to, hear what you've gained. Anyone who wants to say something. If you have questions as well, you can drop them in the chat box or ask to, use the mic so that you can.
Can I say something?
Remember, you can go ahead, say, I thought you said you wanted to say something.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I wanted to just contribute to her questions, like on some of the ways you, as an individual, if you want to reduce your carbon footprint, apart from using sustainable packages, you can do little things like when you're leaving a room, you off your light, you'll be saving energy. You can do little things like you turn on the tap properly. There are some people who probably they just leave water running, so you can turn it off properly. You turn off your lights, and just like Wally mentioned earlier, when you're going for shopping, carry a shopping bag, and you can also get yourself a reusable water bottle. I usually advise people to go for an aluminum water bottle because it's more, because when you get most of these plastic water bottles we buy or they sell, I know I went for an event and they gave me one like that, and I came home, my brother loved it, I gave it to him. That same day he broke it and it ended up in the dustbin. So I was asking myself, what's the use of this whole thing? So I advise people to go for an aluminum water bottle. At least aluminum can be recycled over and over again without waste. So some of these little things that they look like, oh, you're not doing nothing. And then if you're a business person, it should not just be like, okay, I'm just looking at my packaging. Like, even the way you're thinking, how you're going to produce, like it should start from there, the production process, even the ideas. Like, start thinking of how can I be sustainable with this idea I'm about to execute. How can I be more? How can I reduce my energy usage? How can I reduce this, that? So from the process of ideas, start thinking of how you can reduce your energy usage, your waste. Like, I'm a fashion designer, and most people will say that my styles are very simple. My clothes are very simple, yeah. But when I'm thinking of my styles, from my pattern making so there is something we call sustainable pattern making. So from my pattern making to cutting of clothes to everything, like I have to consider the kind of patterns I'm going to be cutting, that I will not be wasting the fabric. I will not be wasting. Yeah, so you need to put all of that into consideration before you execute. So it will go a long way. These little tiny things that look like, oh, we are doing nothing, you're actually contributing. Or it could just be as simple as, when you finish drinking your Fanta, just dispose it properly. Do not just, there are some people who you'll be in a taxi with them, they'll finish drinking and they'll just open the window and throw it out. I mean, you can just hold on to it till you get to a place and dispose it properly. It will go a long way. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, member, for that inspiring contribution when it comes to things that we all could do. I think for me, some of the actions that have been taken when it comes to helping and contributing to the environment is just as simple as some of the examples that member shared. Turning off your lights, not leaving your fan running when you're not there. Even a very simple action is, when I'm in the shower, I don't just leave it running all through, like, I'm trying to, manage that and all of that. So even when I'm brushing as well, when I'm brushing my teeth, one of the most critical things that I do is just to make sure that I turn up the water. I know a lot of us just leave the water running in, the tap water just running while we're brushing, with the hope that the water would, keep flushing all the toothpaste and everything that comes out, we could just, turn it off, wait for until when we're done, and then spit whatever we have in our mouth, and then use the water to flush it. So simple actions like that go a long way. Actions like trying to reduce your meat intake as well, because meat as well, the meat production industry is one of the largest contributors to global greenhouse gas emissions, GHG. And when we reduce consumption, automatically it reduces demand, and automatically it reduces, in one way, it's like a reverse reduction in production. So by reducing the consumption, you reduce the production. So and then reducing the production reduces greenhouse gas emissions. So things like this go a long way. Let's not look at it as just very small or little actions. See it as even bigger actions, because when many of us do the same thing every day, it helps. There is a huge impact. There is so much potential for reduction in carbon emissions. Even transportation is one of the things that almost every day everybody move from one place to another, from either from your home to your workplace or to school or wherever you're going. Transportation is another thing we need to look into, try to use more public transportations where you can cut down on the cost of probably using your own what's it called, vehicle, or your own mobility solution, right? So using more of shared car sharing solutions, bike sharing. I know in Lagos all these different solutions are available, and can go a long way as well in terms of reducing our impact on the environment. I know plastics has a lot to play in everything, and that's when it comes to the planet, when it comes to the environment, we need to think holistically, and think about ways we can try our best, because I know plastics is already here. There's no way we can just completely eliminate it once, but we can, through other actions, we can try our best to sort of offset some of the actions that we've taken in the past in terms of plastics, and also help reduce our emissions in general. So very, very key. I know we're already getting closer to the end of this event, but I would like to just take some questions from the audience. Any questions for our panelists? We have three incredible panelists, and they've all shared their insights and thoughts around plastics and climate change in general. I would love to pick some questions in the comments or in the chats from the audience for our panelists before we wrap up this event. So questions, do you have any questions for Oluwole or Oluwayemisi or Member? Let me check the chats. Okay. Please, I don't get the recycling of plastics bags. Okay, this question is coming from Sylvia. Sylvia, would you like to be more specific about this question, like, or give a bit of context? Because I know we've spoken about recycling quite a lot during this session, so I don't know which part you're speaking to. But I know Oluwayemisi spoke a lot about how recycling is not exactly the solution to climate change. But I mean, Yemisi, maybe you might want to give a bit more detail into that, and just expatiate a little bit more for the audience.
Okay, thank you so much, Aziz. Okay, what I said earlier, she talked about recycling of plastic, and also, okay, yes. What I said earlier was, I said recycling is not the solution to climate, it's not the solution to climate change crisis, because when it comes to recycling plastics, you need high technology to also break down these plastics, to process these plastics. And in the process of doing that, you also emit greenhouse gas, which is what we are running away from what we are trying to curb, what we are trying to limit. So because of, okay, I'm speaking now for Nigeria, because of she gave an instance of somebody in Ibadan that has a company, but is not running so well, maybe because of it's unknown. I said, no, it's not because it's not known, but because the recycling process requires high technology. And in the process where the high technology is not feasible, it leads to a product that is still not so recyclable, such that they still end up in our landfills. So the initial plastic that you brought in the first place, that you got in the first place, thinking it will be recyclable, still end up in the landfill. And it leads to public health concerns. It doesn't degrade. It doesn't degrade, it's just there. It pollutes our soil, pollutes our water, health concerns, and so many things, environmental issues. So that's what I was saying about plastic recycling.
Thank you, Yemisi. I can also
Can I
see.
say something?
Okay, member.
Okay, so and the example she gave of the lady in Ibadan, I think I know the process. It doesn't require some of the, okay, that's upcycling. Some of the upcycling things we do does not require high technology, like the lady in Ibadan. They look and they use like local women to, it's just like, you know how they make ashoke. That's how that process is done. And also what I do, all my products are handmade from, like, we use women, displaced women from our communities or youth generally to upcycle these things. So relating to that, it's not all of it that requires high technology. For, I mean, I totally understand, because I was at an event and we're actually debating on that we say we are recycling, but we're also just causing more harm and all of that. How can we like develop technologies that can, you know, help us? We are trying to recycle, but we are not creating problems again and all of that. So I just wanted to throw light on that. That is some of the upcycling or recycling processes do not require high technology. They are like what I do, 100%. We make it with hands.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you so much for throwing out that perspective to this conversation. I love that this conversation or this panel is really rich in the sense that, we have various perspectives from different industries and sector. And I'm so excited to hear from Membe, who is coming from more of a social entrepreneurship space, and she's able to provide a bit of clarity on recycling and upcycling processes as well. So thank you all. I could see that Vicent, I hope I pronounced the name correctly, his hand is up. It's been up for a while now. Would you like to unmute yourself now and ask your question?
Thank you, members and panelists. My name is Vicent Tumukunde, and I'm the Executive Director, Agency for Community Development and Environmental Conservation back here in Uganda. Yes, looking at plastics now having been enriched in every entrepreneurial entities, can be a long way to eliminate in a very shortest time. But I think if awareness campaigns can be enhanced, mainly among the locals, to reverse on our old ways of using our reusable materials, like the growing of calabash, which can be used as our pots, maybe to keep some of our drinks, can be a bit more useful in a way of reducing the production of plastics that more locals are getting used to. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicent, for that contribution. I think yes, that is an interesting, traditional sort of solution as well. I think, I remember back then when I watch Nollywood movies, there were quite a lot of use cases when it comes to calabash, and those calabash are made with biodegradable materials, materials that when they get, thrown away, or when they get used and thrown away, they biodegrade. They don't necessarily harm the environment. And I think that we can bring back all of these things. We can just, try to be more creative about, how to bring it back into the market. I think one thing that Yemisi mentioned is that there are quite a lot of traditional and cultural solutions that are actually eco-friendly and are good for the environment. But, because of the whole civilization and the new age and modern age, we're all just switching rapidly into the use of single-use plastics and plastics and plastics, because yes, it is understandable that plastics are durable, and they could easily be produced. They are a bit cost effective when it comes to mass production, but at the same time, it harms the environment. When we look at some of the videos and pictures that we see online these days, when it comes to plastics chunk in the ocean, like, it's quite concerning. Like, there is a whole island of plastics in the ocean currently that is floating. So this is really concerning, and we continue to generate plastics at the rate at which we're generating plastics every year. We may end up having a planet filled with plastics, and I'm very sure we wouldn't want to have plastics just flooding into our homes or flooding into our rooms while we're sleeping. Wouldn't that be a nightmare? Thank you so much for your contribution. So I can see Abdul Kudus, your hand is up. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question now?
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. Thank you, Abdul Kudus.
All right, thank you very much. I just want to add some contribution to the discussion ongoing. We've been thinking about the impact of plastic waste and its impact on climate change generally. However, the conversation all over has largely been focused in the city. The city contributes the largest amount of waste into the public. But whether you like it or not, the people in the rural community, they also have a role to play. And if they are not adequately sensitized, you might just be washing, cleaning up one side, while the other side getting more dirty. Is it that analogy? So I believe it's very important that as much as you sensitize the public, the city dwellers, especially in terms of how they can manage their waste, plastic waste generally, actions and activities are also going on in the rural community that are contributing effectively to the number of waste generated in the society. Plastic, especially the old parties in these places, the old events where they use plastic. So I think as opinion leaders, as stakeholders, we need to also design ways on how to communicate this to people in the rural areas. Let's get to the grassroots, because whether we like it or not, Africans and the global south generally contribute less to the global household generation globally, but we are at the highest receiving end. So if we don't take an holistic action that includes both our people in the rural community and the urban centers generally, we don't carry everybody along, we might just be taking one part of the society while leaving the others. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that incredible contribution. Yes, it is very important that the work that we do And while we're having this conversation and discussion about plastics, while cities or urban centers contribute the most, we must recognize that, you know, plastics are generated across, you know, different levels. So not just at the state level or city level, but even at the more grassroots local level, and as well as, you know, at the national level as well. So, and even regional and, you know, more levels. We must always have the conversation looping in all the different levels. And, you know, that also brings me to um, the work that Member does when it comes to, you know, training women and, you know, training them on how to upcycle and take all this waste and all these clothing materials and, you know, upcycle them. That, you know, all this waste are not waste, but even wealth, right? They're not waste, but they're
Yeah.
wealth because they help generate revenue to sustain their livelihoods and their families. So it's quite key that we all support, you know, such kind of work. You know, we give support in any way that we can, either through speaking about upcycling or even just, you know, amplifying the voices of entrepreneurs who focus on upcycling, or, you know, providing a connection, or, you know, even just as simple as promoting the post or their post on social media, because I know Member does quite a lot of beautiful work when it comes to upcycling clothing and fabric. I've seen some of our work in the past, and, you know, the creativity that went into it is quite interesting, you know, and all of this kind of work are things that we need to start amplifying and posting on our social media so that more people could, you know, take up such kind of, endeavors. So let's see in the chat if we still have more questions before we wrap up. I know we just have about 6 minutes left to the end of this interesting conversation. Unfortunately, we'll have to end it. We can keep going and keep going, but you know, we have to end this conversation really soon. I can see a question in the chat about debt funding opportunities for NGO. I'm not sure if you're asking sustainable solutions for green growth about this, but we know that there are funding available for, you know, projects around plastic pollution out there online on different platforms, right? So you can do your search on Google or whatever search engine you're using, and try to search for funding available for plastics for NGOs, and you'll definitely see something pop up, and you can start applying to those opportunities. Just checking again if there are more questions in the chat. Currently, I can't see any other questions, and no one is raising their hands. So I would
I'm
just
raising
like
my
to
hand.
just, oh,
I'm raising
oh,
my
yeah.
hand.
Okay, so our panelist has a question, right?
I want to. Someone wrote. Okay, I don't know if it's a miss or missus. I don't know if it's a she or he. Sylvia Ogbe. He said he's not convinced with the fact that recycling of plastic emits greenhouse gas. So I don't know if the person can speak up so that we can address it. I hope we have enough time, but I would like to say something. Maybe that will answer the person's question. I was talking about recycling, the mechanical process of recycling that it emits greenhouse gas. But remember, actually now she explained that what they do is upcycling. Upcycling does not require it, does not emit greenhouse gas. It's just transforming product into something else, just like using nylon to do maybe a bag, something like that. But what I was talking about was melting process, melting plastics, shredding plastic, all those things that require emitting greenhouse gas. That was what I was referring to. I hope this answers your question. If it doesn't, please, you can speak up.
I think just to also add to what you've said, Oluwayemi, about the recycling process. I think it depends on um also the level at which that recycling process is being done. For example, I know that a lot of calculations go into recycling process when it comes to calculating whether or not you're even doing good or you're just doing it to make money. Because I think when you look at your cost of the cost, like when you look at the amounts of emissions you might be generating through the eating process, and also even through transporting the plastic waste to the facility where it's going to be recycled, the emissions that is being generated from moving those plastics through the solutions that you may have, the mobility solutions that you may have, either it is through a diesel truck. So when you calculate everything all in all, and then you calculate the emissions that would come out of, please, whoever is on mute should mute themselves. I'm getting a lot of noise. All right, so okay. Who's like the
I think Sylvia wants to talk.
Okay, so I will quickly give Sylvia the chance to talk, but just what I was trying to say is that you know when you do your I think when you do your calculations and you check everything out, if the emissions you're producing is lower than the amount of emissions you're going to be saving from the process of recycling the volume of plastics that you're recycling. Now, I mentioned earlier on, it depends on at the level at which you're recycling. So if, for example, you're emitting 200 tons of carbon or heat or whatever it is, whatever emissions, right? From recycling only, let's say, just 100 ton of plastics, it means that you're going to be emitting more carbon than helping in the process, if you get what I'm saying. So in that case, you may not want to do that, right? You would want to maybe probably increase your volume of plastics that you want to recycle and try as much as possible to keep your emissions way below. So I know a lot of calculations go into that when it comes to recycling and recycling companies and the regulators that regulate the recycling companies, because you can't just say you want to recycle and then you end up even emitting more, right? So who's the agency in charge of checking them? I think in different countries, different policies, different regulations. But I know in some countries, there are certain regulations that are put in place that if you're going to recycle X amount of plastics, then your overall emissions should be kept below certain level, and that's your recycling process actually benefits the environment in some way. It may not completely save all the emissions, but to a great extent it might save some amounts of emissions in the process, if you get what I'm saying. So I think that is where the gap is in terms of explaining whether it is beneficial or it's not beneficial, and the scale of the recycling process. I don't know if Silva, to an extent, I've been able to answer your question, but if you still want to go and say something, please unmute yourself and speak.
Okay, yes, you have answered the question, but to an extent, because currently my company is working on a research or a project on recycling of plastic, and that's why I was a little confused, because we have made our calculations and we have discovered that recycling of plastic does not really emit the amount of greenhouse gas the initial plastic we do. So that's how it differs. And she also said she's basically talking about mechanical method. Or so that's how I was like, okay, I accept to an extent, but I was not like it was not completely correct because we have made our calculations because currently we're working on that project. That's why I was a little bit confused. Well, you have answered my question, Sama. Thank you.
Exactly. So like I said, you have to do your maths right. You must do your calculations. Obviously, in some cases where, you even want to recycle, you may end up finding out that the cost of recycling is way more than, what you might be getting in some cases, depending on the volume or the condition or the context, the environment you find yourself, right? So sometimes in some cases, it may be that recycling is not even your best option at that point, and then you have to think about another solution to that. So I think we've now come to the end of this session. It was an incredible 1 hour, 30 minutes of thoughts and insights from incredible speakers. And I would really like to thank our audience for taking the time to stay all the way, even while we had some connection issues and, we were dropping in and dropping out. So I'm so, grateful for everybody being on the call and staying with us and ensuring that, you're all engaged. I am happy that, everybody to an extent engaged in their various capacity, either through asking questions or dropping, comments in the chats. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for an incredible event. Thank you all for making this a successful one for us. And we really just want to wish you a happy Earth Month, since Earth Day has passed already. But I mean, happy Earth Month, and thank you all for all you do in the sustainability space. And thank you to all our incredible speakers for all their interesting thoughts and contributions, and for also taking 1 hour, 30 minutes to be with us today. I know everybody has, different things they're working on or they're doing, and, everybody has busy schedules, but they were able to, take their time to come here and, speak to you, our audience. And thank you all for joining us. Thank you, everybody. At this point, we would like to close the events, and we wish you all the best in all that you do. Continue to engage in our different activities. We would have, more events coming up later in the year, and we will continue to share them with you. We'll continue to engage you on our social media platforms. So do follow us on all our social media platforms. We are available as at SS4GG. So just search for SS for GG. I'm gonna type it in the chat now. So just search for SS for GG on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and you can find us. You can follow us and engage with our events in the future. But thank you all, and do enjoy the rest of your evening, or wherever you are, whatever time you are, right? Do enjoy the rest of your day. Let me just play a song to close the meeting while we all drop off.